Hats off, it's a new year, man. Woo! Welcome to my video for the books I've read this past 2016. I have them all right here and here. Paperback, hardcover, but let's fucking begin. The first book I read this year was, well, not the first book I read, but in alphabetical order, Apex. It's a great shark book because it's not about a massacre or a big body count. You have a few characters, about 7 really cool deaths, and great character development in about 130 pages. Yeah. The next book I read was Battle Whale. Now you'd think that this would be just about the whale causing hell in this so-called perfect world. You're wrong. I'm not gonna spoil it, but Battle Whale has some friends. Oops. I didn't spoil anything! I didn't! You can't prove anything. Even though it's all on video. The third book I've read, I have 3 editions of. 2 are the same kind of, but I have the paperback and hardcover of this edition for Beast. And I also have this version, Beast, with the awesome cover. I don't know if you can see that well. I really enjoyed Beast. Not as much as the movie, but I still love this book. The next book I read was The Beast of Trash Island. This was everything that Apex wasn't. It was a massacre story about 20-something people on a yacht or something like that, and they get massacred by tentacles and bugs. It's nasty, it's gory, it's grotesque. It is The Beast of Trash Island. The next book I read is a sequel to Below. That is why it's in the B section and not the W section. What Lurks Beneath. Now, I love this book even more than the first one. I remember more about it than the first one, and I really hope Ryan Lockwood makes a 3rd book about the Below series with Will Sturman and Val. The next book I read is Boggy Creek. This is 1,000,000 times better than the movie. It is my favorite Bigfoot book that I've read so far. It's engaging, it's gory, it's really scary in some scenes, and then just the Bigfoot is awesome. He's a real badass, and a strong one at that. The next book I read was Stephen King's first officially published full-length novel, I believe. Carrie! How's it going, Carrie? Not too good, huh? Well, suck it up! No, Carrie is a really good book. It was a fast read, and I really felt engaged with all the characters and things that were happening. Stephen King knocked it out of the park with this book. The next 2 books I've read are It's Alive and It Lives Again. These books are so good. I think the first one is not as good as the first movie, but the second one blows the second movie away. I think the second one had a lot to live up to, and it's kind of delivered, but not fully, but the book really does. The next book I've read is Killer. Killer. About a giant killer whale. It took me a while to read this book. I don't remember why, but I do remember really liking it. It just had some slow and boring parts, but I still really enjoyed it. It's a strong story with good writing. The next book I read, Kronos Rising Kraken. This book was 517 pages that took me 18 hours to read. Yes, I read it in 18 hours. It was a great read. The first book took me a week to read, but I was doing schoolwork and work in general, so can't wait for volume 2. The next book I read was Kronos Rising Plague. I haven't read Diablo yet, which is a double feature on this, but I count each short story as their own book, because there's some other short stories on here that I read, and they count individually. So Plague was a great book. I actually haven't reviewed this one yet, but I have my review up on Amazon, so if you want to see that, let me know and I'll link you to it. The next book I read was Meg. I think this is my 2nd or 3rd time reading it, and it's an awesome story for sure. I love Meg. It's probably my favorite out of the whole franchise, and it gets really good throughout this whole series. Meg is awesome. And of course, with Meg, there is The Trench. Now, The Trench is a great sequel. I really liked the characters. I was invested in the story, and it's just a badass shark book. And then I've read Meg, Primal Waters. Damn stickers all over this fucking thing. This was an okay sequel. Not as good as the first 2, but it's still a really solid and entertaining bloodfest. Then I read Meg, Hell's Aquarium. The ending to this book had me go... I remember giving all the other ones a 4.5 and giving this one a 4 out of 5. I think now I'd give it a 4.5 after some time, and it is a really strong story. Then I read Meg, Night Stalkers. I've actually thought about it some more, and it really seems to be like a rehash of Meg, Hell's Aquarium. And for that, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 now instead of the 4.5 I granted it. It's still a really fun book. Lots of carnage and action, and it's a great story. I love the Meg series. Can't wait for the new Meg book. What's it going to be called? I forgot. Meg Generations. And then I read Megalodon by Eric S. Brown. Megalodons by Eric S. Brown. And Megalodon Apocalypse. They're okay. They're not the best Megalodon or even shark books for that matter, but they're still really fun reads. Then I read Slimer, which has a movie based off it called Proteus. Slimer is a gross book. I mean, it's so sexually disgusting. It is the first ever Sharktopus story. This came out in 1983. Devilfish, or aka Monster Shark, came out in 1984, I think. Then Sharktopus came out in 2010. So yeah, this has a Sharktopus in it, to some extent. And then I read Watchers by Dean Arkuntz. This is the longest book I've ever read. I love it, but it's not as good as the movie in my opinion. Still, I recommend this book for people who like romance and their horror stories, because this has a lot of romance in it. And lastly, the 23rd book I've read this year is White Shark. This is my favorite Peter Benchley book. There's a movie based off it called Creature that I grew up watching, which I love. I love it. And as you've heard me say, this is my 23rd book I've ever read this year, and yeah, I'm 23 years old. Next year I'll probably read more than 24 books, because I have a lot of books to read next year. I'll have to look at how much I'm actually reading for reviews and stuff, but a lot. Anyways, these are all the books I've read. Woo! It's been a busy year. But everyone, I hope you've had a great Christmas, and I hope you have a happy New Year. Lion Brian Gatto, host of Horror Show Movie Reviews. Make sure to like my Facebook page in the description below and to leave comments and subscribe.